Hi, everyone, and welcome to Life Bulb Live. I am all alone today. Our CEO, Karin, is busy prepping for some projects we have coming up. So I will be hosting today's live with two fantastic individuals. We're going to be talking about chronic illness, multiple illnesses in the workspace, how to handle them, tips, tricks to talk to, your employer about, what you should talk to your employer about, and just ways to balance it. Probably should have done this on Wednesday. They call it Workplace Wellness Wednesday or something like that. But anyways, we're doing it today. We're going to have a great conversation. So I'm going to bring on To Being Healthy. I love the name, and I think they are so fabulous. So thank you guys for coming and sitting with me so I'm not all by myself. I love that you guys are sisters. We just talked about this. I think your name flows perfectly. So please introduce us. Tell us a little bit about you, what your chronic illnesses, and how you got here. How did you get into this To Being Healthy space?
Sure. I'll jump in. Okay, so we are sisters. I'm Emily. This is my sister Kate, and we both have multiple chronic invisible conditions. And we just kind of started a blog about that topic, and we wanted to include successful things that we've tried that have helped us. We wanted a place to talk about kind of those struggles that we're dealing with daily and kind of create a community, a hub where we detail life with a chronic invisible illness in a real way, kind of shows the highs and the lows, but we try to deal with it in a positive manner overall and empower people to be their own advocate and put that forward. And everything kind of grew from that idea. So that is the whole idea behind To Being Healthy.
So you said something there that I do love about you guys. You said we try to put the positive out there, and you guys aren't always super positive though. This isn't like, rainbows and unicorns, although I love rainbows and unicorns. This is about you guys being real. And sometimes being real is about showing that negativity or that hardship that is positive because it makes us feel like we're not alone and shows us that we're not alone. What was it like? I know for me, I've said this before, like I take off my hat, right? Right now I'm going to be director of communities, and then maybe I'll be, an advocate with you guys in a little bit. But it was really empowering the first time I put a post up and somebody said to me, oh my God, that's exactly how I feel. Did you guys get that sense when you first started, sharing your story?
Oh, absolutely. And that was one of the almost reasons why we started too, because we felt so isolated, even though we had each other. So just putting something out there saying, God, I can't get out of bed today, or taking a shower is difficult, or something so simple that most of our peers, didn't really understand. And someone saying, yeah, that wiped me out too. It's an amazing feeling that you're not alone and other people in this community are right there with you.
And I think there's, you want to make everything sound really good all the time and really positive, but yeah, definitely the times that we've had like a really strong connection or with our audience and a lot of comments, a lot of engagements is the time where we're just being very, very honest and, whatever struggle that we're dealing with. Because it is like what Kate said, that kind of isolating feeling that when you're dealing with a health thing at, throughout your youth or something, that it's the stigma that, oh, you should be fine. So it does have that feeling of isolation that, you're in a world of healthy people and you're the only one kind of dealing with this. So I think it is very connecting to speak honestly and have other people relate to those, because we're so not alone, so many people have chronic health problems. It's just not as talked about or as talked about as openly because there's so many little tiny struggles that you just don't really share because then you just wouldn't really stop talking about it. So
plus it's invisible, you can't see what we're feeling or how we feel. And I know you guys will crack up at this. I mean, you both look amazing. Like you're gorgeous. You look super vibrant and healthy, but that is not what goes on the inside. And I think that is really hard societal wise. Society sees you in one light when the reality is it probably took you 45 minutes to just get out of bed, then another 45 minutes to take a shower. And then I had to sit down for a little bit because the shower exhausted me. And I've had days like that where it's really hard to even do those X, Y, and Z.
We'll finish.
Which I think, go ahead. Yeah. Go ahead. Sorry to interrupt you.
No, if we're doing a podcast or a call, sometimes we'll finish the call and be like shaking. You know what I mean? Because you just feel so sick, but you're just putting on this front or you're trying to power through and get through it. And then people don't see the other side of that, But
so this is a great way to segue into what I'm so excited to be able to talk about. I've had that exact moment. I've done maybe a live like this, or I've done a patient interview, a workshop, and I now work for a company where I can say that wore me out. I need 20 minutes to regroup and just chill. and nobody says anything. Nobody even blinks because they get it. And I think, when I was before my diagnosis of cancer, I had just a regular job. I was a caterer. I did all these, different things. I realized afterwards I needed a mission-driven company because I needed someone that would understand my health needs and my, concerns. How did you guys, go into your workspace with everything that you're dealing with?
Yeah, so we actually didn't, I feel like we learned a lot. We didn't handle going into the work environment. We worked at a really typical 9 to 5 office, both in real estate, but different ends of work. I did more marketing, graphic design. And Em and I at the beginning, even with we were first, I guess, we're really secretive about
I would say
what we were going
we
through.
handled it wrong initially, and it was a very much a learning curve for us because we kind of were doing that double life thing, but to like the extreme for us. So it was very stressful. We didn't tell anyone. We just kind of tried to power through a bunch and then, would crash silently.
Yeah, and that didn't work because, we'd have doctor's appointments, chronic illness community, you have unpredictable things that you can get into a specialist, like you have to take that appointment, or if a migraine hits you or nauseous or anything, you can't really control it. So we were really struggling with kind of keeping that balance of being able to perform and do our work, yet we
and
were
not
struggling.
seem flaky, but and there was times where I would literally, try to go to my car for a long lunch and lay down because just sitting up there was hard, or my blood
Right.
was tanking just sitting, and we were really trying to navigate while acting completely fine, and in reality that was 100% the wrong move, and now that's why we try to be very vocal about it, because you're not helping anyone. You're not helping your employer because they're like, oh, this person's being flaky or they seem like they don't care, where in fact you're trying so hard and you're
Right.
so hard to just kind of act normal. So it was a learning curve, and that is why we say now definitely don't do that. Definitely talk to your employer and be upfront if you can, say this is the situation, because we look back and we added a lot of extra stress and kind of secrecy trying to navigate it
Sure.
through our life. Yeah.
I totally understand that. Plus you want to be able to do it, right? Like, I think that's part of it in the beginning. It's almost like, screw this illness. I can still do the work I have to do. I can still work a 10-hour day and come home and walk the dog and make dinner and, do everything.
Oh, yeah.
Guess what? You don't have to, though.
And the thing, I think this is really hard for us, that with our condition, it's like we can have a day where it's completely fine and be completely tanked the next day. So some days it's like we would seem absolutely fine and, nothing wrong. So it was that kind of not knowing when you're going to have a hard time, or when you're going to feel really sick.
The unpredictability.
The unpredictability is the hardest thing when doing like that typical 9 to 5 with a chronic illness, because it's not that you're too ill to do that sometimes. For us, it was that you're too ill to do it all the time.
Right.
Yeah.
And you did have a good point just now, because I call it an MS hangover sometimes. I get them, and it's like, I had a bad MS flare up, but I took care of myself. I was resting, but the next day, from just taking care of myself, I'm exhausted. Like, the next day is almost worse than the day that I'm in a lapse, and to be able to, you have to be upfront with your employer and say, look, this is going to knock me out for 2 days. I'm do the best I can to keep up with projects or keep up with everything, but I need to take a couple sick days, or personal days. It's very important, because I do agree with you guys when you said you're actually hurting yourself more than anyone. And your employer just thinks, oh, this person's not being productive anymore. And that could actually cost you your job more than saying, I have a health condition that, needs to be addressed for what I'm doing right now. So you guys wrote a great blog post about tips that, to get through this. What are your go-to? If I'm coming to you and I'm saying, I'm having a really hard time with my employer, could you talk to me? Tell me some tips that can help me get through this.
Sure. So with an employer, it's like any relationship, and this is kind of our, I feel like, go-to is just being transparent now. So we eventually, with our employers, did, I don't want to say come clean, but we did tell them, we do have invisible illnesses, chronic illnesses, just small modifications, be it, lighting, temperature. For us, we're really affected by little things like that. Standing or putting our legs up because we get really bad blood pooling with our POTS. So really small modifications helped us tremendously. And our employers were really open to learning, what they could do
Yeah,
for
I would
us.
say the biggest thing was when we talked to our
Mhm.
employers. And I remember doing it, and it
Mhm.
was separate to Kate. We didn't decide like, oh, we're going to do
Yeah.
this together. It just kind of happened separately for both of us.
Mhm.
But I was going through kind of like I was fighting a flare up. So I was really struggling being in an office, for those hours every day. And I was having a lot of appointments, so I had to leave, and I knew it was not looking good. So I talked to my employer
Mhm.
and I was like, this is the situation. I actually have lupus and this. And they instantly, it was like a 180, and it was so much better.
Mhm.
They were so understanding.
Yeah.
I felt so massively relieved. I could
Mhm.
have cried. It's
Mhm.
like, that's the hardest thing. It's, you just want people to know that, like,
Yeah.
hey, I do care. I'm not flaky. I'm trying
Absolutely.
so.
Right.
Yeah, and we were able to get all the work done. Just maybe, we were able to a lot of our programs and everything were computer based. So maybe do some of it at home or do it a little bit different hours. But we wanted to get the work done. That's the thing too. We're motivated, and we don't want to, not put work forth and not be
Right.
productive, members of
Oh
society.
yeah, it's
Mhm.
just kind of what Kate said, reworking.
Yeah.
And the reality is you don't have to tell your employer any of this. You don't
Mhm.
legally.
Mhm.
However, I think holding it back could end up in a situation where I don't think anybody wants to be in, because then you do have to explain it if you get to that point where your productivity is down and you're not being able to, hit deadlines and whatnot. Then they're going to want to know why you have it going on. So I agree with you guys being upfront right from the beginning. I've actually noticed when I was looking for a job last year that some places are straight up asking you, do you have a chronic illness that could affect your job?
Mhm.
Oh, that's
I don't think it's supposed to be in a bad way. I think it's supposed to be in a good way. I think they're trying to get a little diversity into their world as well.
Oh, okay.
What do you guys think of that?
So that's interesting. I
Yeah.
feel like my gut reaction, and this could be completely wrong, would be to not be upfront until I was hired. I don't know if that's bad advice, but I'd probably want to not say I have something that could, make me a more difficult employee, a difficult seeming employee, or, someone who needs extra attention in some ways until I was hired. That's just would you?
Yeah, I think my gut, but then I'm like, oh God, that's so nice to have that right away kind of taken off your plate, not to think
Yeah.
about
I
having to
maybe if
bring
it was
that
like
up and
situational,
Mhm.
like,
Right.
an ad, if it was coming from a place of like diversity and, we want to do what we can.
Yeah.
Um,
'Cause I like that it's right there out in the open. I mean, I am with you too, because there's so many more aspects and stuff to us than just our chronic illness or just our invisible illnesses. But
my worry
Yeah.
would be that I would be judged negatively and not get the job. So I would tend to say, wait till you're hired and then talk to them. But that
Right.
might be wrong advice. I don't know.
I think it depends on the person, because when I saw it, I was like, oh, this is great. I'm gonna tell them everything I got. Let me lay it all out there. And if they want me, they want me. If they don't, they don't. But you are right. That may be something that you want to wait until you get hired for the job and say, hey, look at, I got X, Y, and Z, but that never affects my, my ability to perform, or, whatever it is that you're going to say.
I think, yeah, what you said is good, that it is probably very situational and something that you could read out. Like if I was talking to someone and it was a very open, honest thing, about the position, and I felt a good vibe, then I would probably feel more inclined to, say the situation and explain that, I might want to work from home some days or have that as an option. And I will, definitely get the work done. But, sometimes I'm up during the night all night and I sleep during the day. So that's for me is a time I like to work. So, if they're flexible like that, and they're open to different, you just
I
getting
love what
work.
Daniel said right here.
Mhm.
Health issues don't make us difficult. I love that.
Mhm.
That just because we have a health issue doesn't make us difficult. That's not the
Yeah.
situation.
Yeah.
I love that. And I just was thinking about something. Isn't it funny how we're so concerned to bring our health issues to work, yet how many times we've been at work when Linda comes in and she's at that water cooler telling you all about, her neighbor next door, who she thinks she's doing blah, blah, blah. And, her kid got into the garbage and, it's got this personal story that you want to scream because she spent 45 minutes telling it to you. We have no problem bringing in our personal work, personal stuff to work, but health-wise, no way. Mental health, forget about it. We ain't gonna bring about that.
Yeah. And I should clarify, when I say like difficult, I don't mean, difficult in that typical way. Just,
I know you did it. Exactly.
Yeah, some people can see it as like, oh, that is a harder thing potentially to accommodate. It shouldn't be. That's what we, definitely stand against.
Yeah.
But just that perception is a real thing. Yeah, so that's
exactly
what we worry we would be judged for. Like we would be more, difficult. When in our eyes, we're like,
everyone
we'll get
has,
it done.
Yeah,
everyone's got something.
Yeah, everyone does. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So do you think that in the workplace, physical health goes right along with mental health and what you're honest with?
Oh, that's a tough question.
This is a hard one. And this is like totally personal because for the record, anyone watching this, you do not have to divulge any of your personal, mental or physical to your doctor. It's funny to me how like right away, most people are like, oh, I don't think I would say anything about my mental health, but you would say something about your physical health. And I'm not saying that's what you guys were going to say, but this is the problem with our society because we're not treating them both the same.
I think, I do agree with what you're saying. I think we're taking big steps in mental health, big strides to acknowledge it the same way we do, as a physical condition, which it 1,000% should be. I do feel like the physical things the mental health might encourage more secrecy there because it's easier to hide. And, the reason that we didn't hide our physical thing forever is because we physically couldn't. It wasn't because, I would like to think we would have gotten there eventually, but it was too stressful. We were not doing a good job. We were missing work. So that was what was our motivation to be like, okay, we need to talk to you. Like, this is obviously you're noticing stuff. It was the physical stuff was right there. So, I would like to think that, if we were dealing with the mental side of things, that we would go to our employer and talk to them and say, this is what's going on. I don't know, because if I was able to stay in the office and keep doing work, I don't know if I would be motivated enough to talk to them.
Right.
I think also that would be situational. I hope that, I would, and people do, because I think the more open about that stuff, the better. And then we realize how many people are dealing with that.
Destigmatize all.
Totally agree.
And we, for the most part, when we do talk to people, it is met with a tremendous amount of understanding and kindness. And that to us is like, when we're talking to someone and it's important to us, like an employer or, and it's received well, the relief could be almost brought to tears, because that's how much you carry.
I totally agree with that.
This like weird stress thing that you're, and then when that goes away and someone's just like, oh, I get it, just talk to me. The relief is so huge, and that just shows you like how hard you're working to make it all okay. Like those wheels don't stop turning. So.
And I do think taking that first step to tell them what's going on is actually the hardest and the scariest, because you think their reaction is going to be something, and it really isn't. Most people I know that are, have a chronic health condition that are employed have had a great response from their bosses. Now, I know plenty that haven't. And I hope that more conversations like we're having right now, so that people can understand, talk to your boss about it. And you know what? If they're not reacting the right way, know your rights. Like, seriously, this is, if they're, if it becomes an issue of some sort, know what your rights are in your state, because every state's different. I don't know what state's what, but.
And I think that's what we mentioned in our post too, that we're not saying it is always going to be positive. And if someone is negative towards it, it's probably in the end not going to be the best situation for you anyway. So that's going to be too stressful. That's going to be, you're going to be affected from that. So at the end of the road, it probably wouldn't be the most beneficial situation to be in.
Absolutely. We'll say that, chronic illness or any type of disability, it's hard enough. So
it is hard enough. And I love Daniel's question, because I think this is a great way to end this conversation too. It's about your energy. Like, did you feel it shift when you were able to come out and tell your employer what's going out, to shift to taking care of yourself instead of stressing about it? Did you feel that? Were you able to take care of you?
So much
so.
For me, the shift initially was, so with what we have, one of the conditions is POTS. It makes mornings harder. because it takes a while for our blood pressure to get up and for our
Mhm.
meds to kick in. So what I was able, when I started talking to my employer at the time, I could start later. I could do one day in the office, one day at home. These things were so monumental to me that I could have like a day recovery and rest and work at home and not have to because getting up I'd be thrown the whole day just from waking up like an
Right.
hour, something so minor, you know. So these little small changes, it was so huge to my health.
Yeah, I have so similar situation, that just little things, and my work, productivity, like nothing changed. Like I was producing the same amount of work, if not even more, because I was able to really take care of myself and not dip as badly. So it was just such a huge relief.
And I think from like COVID now and everyone working at home, a lot of employers hopefully realize everything can get done pretty much from home. It's like
we've definitely seen a shift in the workspace because of COVID. I think that's a plus we can say that COVID gave us, which is probably the only one, is that it did open people's eyes, like, oh my God, they can get work done at home. I work from home. I've worked from home for years now, and it was actually harder for me because all my kids were home. You know what I mean? So I got less work. Like I found myself getting up earlier and staying up later because I couldn't get my work done in the middle of the day because it was, Mom, can I get a drink? Mom, where's this? Mom, where's, and I couldn't get anything done. But it was nice to see my friends, I don't know, work from home, be able to get their stuff done and be able to take care of themselves a little bit because it was difficult for sure.
Oh, absolutely.
Well, I loved having a conversation with the two of you. I think you guys are great. I think your art tips were spot on because taking that step to talk to your employer about it is really important. And it isn't just about productivity. It is about taking care of you. And the only way we can do that is by being honest with our health conditions. It does make me a little sad that we feel like we have to hide them some days, excuse me, but I do understand that feeling. And I think sometimes we want to hide them because we want just a little bit to be like we used to be and be able to just get things done.
Yeah.
So
there's just so much on someone's plate when they're dealing with a chronic illness that,
why add that layer to it?
Yeah, completely.
Well, thank you guys so much. And make sure everyone checks you out on Instagram, Facebook, and all those good places in your blog. We put them all up there. And I hope you guys will do an Instagram takeover maybe next week or something. I love your Instagram takeovers. You guys are always so much fun. And I just love your energy. I think it's fantastic.
Thank you for having us.
Of course.